People of the world, welcome to Send It Rising. Oh, okay. You've heard me say it before. You're going to hear me say it again. The people that we have on the show are incredible. I do not believe in coincidences. Neither does my guest today. We have had a number of very, very interesting conversations. You see, my guest today had a whole different career that she was going down, and then she just got hit by the accessibility train. And she ended up working with some of these incredible people that are inventing this technology that's absolutely mind-blowing. Imagine like a Thames machine that when you go to a concert, Bluetooth to the soundboard, and then you can feel the guitar solo, you can feel all the music. You see, Shine Music Festival is an accessibility-centric festival of joy and celebration that you're going to want to learn all about. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest on the show today, the one, the only, Shawn. Satterfield.
Well, thanks, Kellen. What a great intro.
Yeah,
Honored to
stoked
be
to
on
have
this.
you
Yeah.
here. Yeah, it's super exciting. So, a million things to talk about.
Yes.
Can we talk about real quick before we get into Shine and all the amazing things that you're doing there? You got into this work after leaving another kind of work, and I forgot what it was. I want to say it was corporate.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I still have. I have my for-profit, which was for focused on enterprise-level web development. So, working with large, huge Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. And then I still have that. I simply, as of December 31st of 2021, let go of all my clients to refocus on web accessibility, digital accessibility, and that way, when I'm taking off my hat from one company to the other, it's not such an extreme.
Yes, I remember you saying that. That was such. I remember that vividly now because it's a huge leap of faith. So when folks are going to Shine Music Festival, walk me through what they experience, who can go, why should they go, who's playing, etc.
Awesome. Wow. Um, uh, First and foremost, what's really interesting is who can go, right? In just because we have removed all of the barriers that typically prevent people with disabilities from going to a live music festival doesn't mean that it's only for people with disabilities. It's an inclusive, accessible music festival. And so what we did, and I think that you and I were talking, that's my thing. Some people fish and golf, and I do live music all over the world. And when I realized one day, as I was in that magic bubble, that moment when the energy from the crowd and the energy from the stage connect, and this community of energy happens, I, for whatever reason, at that moment, noticed the ADA section, and they were on the same level I was on. But they were basically in a cage. They were in a little caged off area where they only had, one, maybe two people with them. I couldn't come in, they couldn't go out. And I really just was like, wow, they should be over here with all of us. I had 40 people around me. We were having this amazing, I was meeting new people, and they just weren't allowed that opportunity. And so I just started thinking about, are there ways to make live music, which has nothing to do with our outer shell, more inclusive of people without separating them based upon abilities?
Yes.
And so that's what we did. We just went one by one, down the kind of finding out about the event, getting to the event, attending the event, and really worked with organizations like Special Olympics, the Davis Finney Foundation, Easter Seals, autism community, on what would it take to make this. What do we need to do to remove the ADA section of the live music show?
And has this ever been done before?
No. Nope. So there wasn't really anything for us to go off of. We had to literally invent it. There are a lot of organizations out there that do work to make live music accessible, but it's still within the boundaries of what typical ADA laws are. And I just think that those laws are minimalistic, and I wanted to expand upon that and see what we could create without those. We did not have an ADA section at our event. We made the
Mhm.
entire event open, and we had a guest, Jordan, who was blind at birth and met her friend Cody at blind camp when they were 8. And she wrote on our Facebook page, "Thank you for giving me the gift of a festival that I could navigate on my own terms without the need of a sighted person." And she had never had that experience before. So, I think we accomplished a lot, and we're really excited for what we learned from last year to incorporate it into this year's event.
So beautiful. So when we chatted before, you said you were about to go to a Tool concert, and that to me was very interesting because anyone who's a fan of Tool, is interesting to me. And so you have an eclectic music. Um, what's the word to describe it? Taste?
Taste.
Is that
Yes.
accurate?
Yes. Yeah, I have seen I I believe I'm approaching 1,000 different artists. I am a geek at heart, so of course I have a spreadsheet that has with a pivot table that I can go from what city and state and country and venue and how many times I've seen bands. But I've seen everyone from I saw Grace Vanderwall, the 12-year-old America's Got Talent uh, uh, ukulele player. I went and saw her. My husband and I were the only adults there without kids. So we kind of made a note that going forward, we need to borrow kids for that because it was kind of a little weird. But, Garth Brooks, Iron Maiden, I love, of course, I have a great album, Vinyl Connect collection and listen to music all the time, but there's something different about live music, and that
Mm.
I kind of feel the same way about sports. I don't really watch sports on TV. I love going to them live, but there's an energy, a community that's missing. That I love. So
Yeah, there's no question about it. We've talked about the law of attraction and magic and intention and all that sort of stuff, and those sorts of communal experiences do definitely have a enchanting quality, one could say. Sometimes I like to think of myself as a wizard, and this is geeking out like a bajillion percent,
okay, okay,
because what we do online is basically web pages are just scrolls, right? We're scrolling. So we just scroll, right? And so if we can make the magical scroll like just the perfect way, then people are going to want to, they're going to want to work with the person on the other side of that website because every website is only like a magical interface between a human being and another human being. That's it. Um,
exactly. I'm going to have to steal that from you. My motto is it's the storefront of today, right? And so, even if it's just a brochureware site, the fact is that I know that I do. If I go on a website and I'm like, oh, I give it, I probably give it less than that 30-second minute, and then I'm done, and I go on to the competitor, just because if you're not going to take time to display your information about your business in a way that is appealing, then I gotta assume you're not going to treat your customers or clients any better.
yep. Yep. Yeah.
So,
It's just this sort
but
of
I like
reflection.
that scroll. I'm gonna have to steal that, Kellen.
Yeah, scrolling. Yeah, it's cool. So, I mean, if you went, back 5,000 years and you just showed any person any of the technology we have, they would absolutely believe 100 million percent that we're magicians, just
Oh,
doing magic, and what we're doing right now is magic. And then I also like thinking about future generations, not just like 3 or 5, but like 1,000. And one of the things that is important to me on this show, and the listeners of the show know this, is that I like to think about 1,000 generations from now and how our generation, and that includes everyone that's producing content now, will be like the Adam and Eve generation, because we will be the only generation of their ancestors that they'll be able to go back and listen to at length for many hours. So
oh,
if let's say like my father was super famous in the 80s or something and he was on TV a lot, then okay, then that was online and in the cloud, maybe like that information made it. But it's pretty much this generation, because there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of content that these people can go back and listen to how weird we sounded back in the 2000s and how the language was so different and what our values were and our problems. So it's a big responsibility, I feel.
Well, and not only that, but just in the last 2 years, really. I mean, look at the onset of TikTok. You and I had that conversation. I've literally watched a bored college student sitting in his dorm because school wasn't going on be signed by Sony in 10 months. You know, there and I believe you had we had that conversation where it's like, you know, you didn't have a chance of being a musician growing up in right North Dakota. Is that right?
North
Yeah.
Dakota, you got it.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, where I grew up in Grand Island, Nebraska. I just don't have the musical talents that I pretend. I do believe that I somehow lately found out that I think I possess the natural ability to be a drummer. Through my
Mm,
Oculus, I've been playing this Smash Drums game, and my husband won't play it with anymore because I'm already on the leadership board. So I think that I have that skill in me.
that's
But
so
but
cool.
yeah, but you just didn't have. You know, we were not only were we landlocked into wherever we were at, we didn't have a way to reach the rest of the world digitally. But you know, we were limited on our exposures, and you know, we only knew what we knew in our immediate environment. And
Mhm,
now, you know, you can get recipes directly from Taiwan, and
mhm.
you know, you can be anywhere in the world on a small little island and become one of the greatest performers of all time.
Oh, I know. It's incredible. It really is incredible.
Yeah.
And so I read a Harvard article on my show the other day about how B2B sales representatives are experiencing much fewer at bats, is the way they describe it, which is to say the number of proposals they're putting out are much smaller than they used to be. And the reason is because the ability for the consumer to research and judge a company has gone up so much that they don't want the pressure that they feel talking to the salesperson. If they're talking to you, they've probably already made their decision, looked at your reviews, checked out your website, looked at your social, blah, 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 blah. And that's similar. That's what I'm experiencing. You know, when people reach out to us, they tend to close, but the number of people reaching out to us is less.
100%. We have to admit that the archaic RFP system is still in play,
Mm,
which which those of us in the industry know that that's simply a dog and pony show to meet a requirement. So they already have who they've selected, but
ah,
you know, the governing entity says you have to get 5 quotes. Well, I'm quite sure you've been on the end of that where you know that you are without question the most qualified person. You have come in under budget, and yet someone else gets it, and it's because they were already the existing vendor in play. So, you know, we don't do it anymore. We don't play that game. We're out of the RFP program because it's not a good representation of what your options are out there.
interesting. Yeah. So, what is the vision for? Let's actually talk about the tens machine, and then let's talk about the Shine Festival vision.
Yeah.
Um, so, you are loosely connected to this invention, right? And have folks used it at Shine Festival?
Yeah,
Walk me through that.
yeah. Here's how little it is. I have it right here.
What? She's got it. All right. If
I
you're listening on
do.
iTunes or Spotify after the fact, she's holding up something that looks like an iPhone. Looks like the back
Yeah,
of
I mean
of
it's small. It's like the old tiny cell phone size. It's way smaller than the iPhones today that are more like, you know, tablets in our back pockets.
yeah.
But yeah, in 2019 when I was really kind of trying to put down to paper, you know, what does this look like? What do I mean by a radically accessible music festival? I was speaking, you know, it was just communication is education, and was speaking about my vision for this, and someone walked up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I just met these people. They invented they the, he actually is a rocket scientist. It's not a joke. He really does do that for a living. But he had an injury, a sport injury, and was using the electromagnetic, whatever, where it's the pulsation of energy, as a way of rehabilitating his muscles, and that's boring. And so he basically invented this way of taking the music and, that same type of process, but taking all the nuances and all the different varying levels of that music and putting it into energy, of which then is pulsated in through in internalized in our body. It literally feels like the music is inside of you, and it's a really amazing experience.
Wow.
So we had, they were definitely involved in 2021, and will be involved in this year's event. And, because of COVID, they pivoted in a way that I would never have dreamed of. They actually used mannequins. So in order to like eliminate touch from human to human, they wired up mannequins. So, when you held the mannequin's hands, then the energy transmitted from the mannequin to you.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it was pretty amazing. And I know that they're working on some new technologies now, um, that and you're going to have them on the show, so I won't spoil any of their news. But, we're looking forward to expanding upon their presence at, Shine Music Festival 2022.
So cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it we talked about this in our previous conversation and I saw a TikTok on this that I thought was really interesting, talking about digesting, but not the food, how we consume through our eyes, through our taste, through our smell, through what we hear, our inner monologue, if we have a positive inner monologue, what we allow, into like our space. And so you have a machine that gives us the ability to make like a technological jump where we can feel sound, is pretty incredible. I mean, it's just what a leap.
Yeah,
What,
it's
so,
amazing though. There's so many more things. That's just one event. That's just one product. I was in the Music Tectonics conference at the end of last year, and there's so many. It's interesting because there's all these things, especially when you're looking at VR, right? So now you've even allowed, the ability for someone who is homebound to experience a live concert without leaving their home. But what's interesting is that most of these products are not coming at it from a standpoint of accessibility. They're just looking at it because it's cool.
mhm,
And so, it's what I've been challenging a lot of, these people that I've been meeting over the past year is, what you're doing is great. Do you realize that it's also a phenomenal, aspect for people, and actually opens up the door, to people with disabilities for being able to participate in these things? And
mhm,
as usual, unfortunately, where we're at is that accessibility, whether we're talking websites, digital assets, whatever it is, accessibility is is not at the forefront. It's not something that they're centrally focused on. The reason why. So
mhm,
but there's a lot of the Jambox out of New York. That's a crazy product that kind of looks like a harmonica, but allows, a quadriplegic to be able to play various different types of instruments.
yeah.
So there's just really cool systems, possible with, music. Rehabilitative Rhythms,
Mhm,
is another, partner that was at Shine, and they take, instruments and adapt them to the specific needs of an individual with disabilities. So
mhm.
there's so many of them out there, and I hopefully this digital world that we live in, when we just talked about how we can reach literally everyone across the globe in an instant, through those sources and getting the word out. We can spread that technology, that then just the awareness of that technology, and get some of these huge technology companies that can afford to put the research and the time and the money and effort into making it something that's accessible and available for all.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the Shine TikTok. I regretfully inform you that I have not looked it up. Does it
Oh, there
exist?
isn't any. There's only like two videos on there.
Okay.
I did my first one. I think the first one is really good. I did a kind of a thing about how, in 2020 we recognized that, of all things that happened, for those of us who love live music, I now know what it's like to not experience it. So I'm
Mm,
grateful for that, because I now have even a deeper passion than I had before, because I know
mhm,
what it was like to miss it. And then the second one was because I actually had been watching that student that I mentioned that got signed by Sony. It came out the very next day after I had kind of one of my ideas about Shine. I had a dream of you and I in Colorado, and I went, oh, I'm going to do duet, because that's what I figured you got to do, and I'm going to duet this guy and then get him to come to Shine, and he was literally signed like that week. So I was a little late on that
mhm,
bandwagon, but
mhm,
we are. I guess this is a perfect deal, and I'll let you know this is the first time I'm publicly announcing what I'm about to say. But the one and only Nigel Dick, people may not know by his name, but he has won 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards, and has directed over 380 Grammy-winning music videos, such as "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time" and "Welcome to the Jungle." Is filming Shine. Filmed this last one, but now kind of filming this whole process, and through that, uh, we are going to um, really kind of document what are the struggles and what are the trouble, what are we having a hard time doing, and how are we getting past those hurdles, and what the outcome is. And the one thing he did tell me is you can't plan what a documentary is going to be about, Shawn. So
mhm,
so we'll see. But yeah, uh, there's just a lot of things that we are, boundaries. Basically, we welcome those, because that means that it's something that we need to figure out how to make a change, and then share our information, because having Shine Music Festival once a year in Denver, Colorado is not going to make the world a more inclusive space. So
mhm,
we want to share it, and let other people know how to make their venues more accessible and their events more accessible.
mhm. Yeah, I see a conglomerate, right? I see Shine as the festival, which is basically the megaphone for the idea, right?
Yes.
It's the once a year event, right? That people go, oh, I see. There's a whole world out here that I am clueless about, and anyone can join it. It'll be virtual before we know it. Tens of millions of likes on the TikTok. And there are a ton of disabled influencers that are finally getting the light of day now. TikTok, Instagram, these sorts of places. I'll be flipping through TikTok, and someone will be on live, 10,000 people watching, and they'll be talking about their disability or not, or making jokes or doing whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so we're at a point now where a lot of the folks that didn't have the ability to do stand up, say, or they didn't have an audience because it was just very difficult to get through either the ableism of the system or just literal physical limitations. Those barriers are breaking down, and it's fantastic to see it happen, and it's super exciting, and the timing is great. And then you
Yeah.
couple that with like new technologies, and oof, I
It's
mean,
yeah, it's fascinating. And I don't you're probably noticing the same thing I am, is that people who suddenly have millions and millions of followers on TikTok, they as you get to know them, and they start maybe having some posts that aren't, just about their woodworking or whatever they're
mhm.
doing, there you find that they are on the spectrum, and that
Oh, yeah.
they actually don't really enjoy talking in front of large crowds.
Mhm.
And so that there is something to be said about this divide, right? You and I are talking, but there's a separation that gives those people who maybe have anxiety over that. You may be a phenomenal guitar player. My husband is a great guitar player. You put him in front of someone and he can't play. But
Mm.
now you've removed that, and even though they're live and they're going to, thousands of people are watching them, they're alone. And so it's allowing them their freedom to express themselves without that anxiety of getting on a stage in front of a bunch of people.
Mhm.
And so Yeah, it's really amazing, and that's what we hope to kind of encapsulate. And I kind of forgot to expand upon Nigel. He made a comment the other day. I still can't get past the fact that I'm getting text messages from Nigel Dick. I'll just put that out
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
Mind blowing. But he's like, you need to have a Shine music song, and I instantly thought of TikTok because then it's not, how would I pick a band or an artist to write a song? I couldn't. There's too many of them, and I'm limiting all what could happen from that. So
Mhm.
I am looking to, we're going to kind of launch it on TikTok. Nigel said he had some ideas for some starting words, and however we're going to do that, and we're going to put it out to the community and say, hey, write the Shine Music song, and we'll just let people decide what that song is.
Oh, I mean, what? I mean, how am I alive at this time? Isn't that just
it's
wild?
it
Like I
really is.
remember like ready to go from that to, oh, we'll just let the internet community build a song around this.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just, and for music lovers, it's just like we've literally blew off boundaries and doors that now, I love. We started this conversation with how I love all different types of music. I'm being exposed to new music and new sounds and new artists every day.
Mhm.
That's, yeah. In addition to growing up in the 80s, and this is the one thing that I'm really excited to be alive during this time, and watching this happen, literally unfold on my
Yeah,
phone.
and my dream, my hope is way after I'm dead, someone's listening to this interview and they're like, "Whoa, this is like when Shine started."
Ah,
10,000 years later, when
ah,
Shine did this thing.
yeah, yeah. Because what that means is that it worked.
Yeah.
And that you start going, that was something that was, as I look over the footage of the 2021 event and I look on the dance floor, and there were blind people and deaf people and able-bodied people and people in wheelchairs and people on crutches and kids and people of all abilities getting down, sharing in the groove together. And I'm like, I just hope that becomes the norm, that's the norm, and not that there's absolutely no reason for anybody to ever communicate with me on a podcast again, because it's just standard. It's just normal. That's
Mhm.
my goal, is let's just we let's face it. We just watched a commercial private rocket take people up into space.
Mhm.
We are capable of doing more than segregated ADA sections.
Mhm.
And I'm not perfect. I am learning every day. I think I told you I thought I had it all figured out until like a month before Shine last year, when we realized that people with mobility issues can't have drink cups without lids.
Ah, right.
You think you got it all, and there's the whole converse. I mentioned this the other day to someone. It's awesome that we live in a time where people feel empowered to refer to themselves in the manner of which they want to be seen,
Mhm.
and not by how society sees them. But there is something else that's happening. There is instead of it opening up conversation, I also am seeing where it's closing down conversations because people are terrified to talk in fear of pissing someone off or saying the wrong thing.
Mm.
So whether you call someone with special needs,
Mhm.
that that doesn't float with everyone,
Right.
right? Even people first vernacular. Someone on my board, it has epilepsy. She refers to herself as an epileptic, and yet
Mm.
her friend says, "No, I am a person with epilepsy."
Right.
And so there isn't a standard across the board, this is the words, this is the vernacular. But what we want to do is we want to encourage people to just have a conversation. So if you say something that to that person doesn't resonate, for that person to say, hey, I just want to acknowledge that, you referred to me as this. I prefer to be referred to in this way.
Right.
Conversation.
Yeah,
So, that's what we
absolutely.
also want to make sure happens is that, and I think a lot of people left. I know we heard back from vendors after Shine who never once realized that they didn't have Braille menus or large print menus.
Ah,
And so they, had someone who was blind ordering their food, and then they were like, oh, well, do you want to sit down, and had them sit down, and then they sat down and talked to them, and they laughed, and they had this best time, and they
mhm.
said we were completely transformed from that 30 minutes.
Yep.
And so that's what it is. We just want everyone I think that the technology removes those barriers that then allows us to see that we're so much more alike than we are different.
Yeah, I love it too. And nobody is expecting people to learn without making mistakes. Right. I
Right.
mean, this is the nature of it. So the question, I feel the underlying question outside of maybe the heat of the moment is, was love the driving force behind the action that the person took? Because if it was, then it may sound terrible to someone who's more educated on the subject matter, their choice of words, the way they went about it, the ignorance. But if they're at Shine, right? They're a vendor at Shine. So is their heart in the right place? Probably. And then they're there and they're helping this person, and then they go, oh, I can't believe I did that. That's endearing, right? So you might be, the person who's like, yeah, it's like they really probably should have thought about this, but they were so sweet. They were so sweet about it, and they're learning, and there's nothing that's going to get it to stick in your brain like that moment where it was Dave, right? The guy you were talking to, Dave couldn't read the menu, and I got to make sure that if Dave ever comes back, that we got the menu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It reminds me of this amazing joke I heard, where there was this magician at a restaurant, and this couple came in, and the husband was blind, and he goes up and he didn't recognize it right away, and he went, "Hey, you guys like to do a magic? Would you like me to do a magic trick?" And the guy says, "Oh yeah, this will be good. Yeah, sure, go ahead, do a magic trick. Like, wow me with your amazing magic trick." And he realizes that the gentleman was blind, and he goes, "Oh no, what am I gonna do?" And he promised him, "Next time you come in, I'll have a magic trick for you." And so he leaves. He forgets about it. Guy comes in about a week later, and he's like, "Oh no, what have I done?" He's feeling dread. He goes in the back, and he goes, "Okay, okay, I got it. I got it." So he comes out, and he sits down at the table, and he's got a deck of cards, and he turns to the wife and he says, "Okay, I'm going to flip these cards over, and your husband's going to tell me if they're red or black. If they're red or black." And she goes, "Okay." So she flips the first one over, and the husband's like, "Red." Flips the next one over, black. Listen, and he's getting them all right. And she's like, "What? She's totally mind blown." And the blind gentleman is just dying laughing. He's like the happiest he's ever been forever. Um, what he did was he sat down, and he was talking about what he was going to do with the wife. And when he said the word red, he tapped the guy's shoe once, and when he said the word black, he tapped his shoe twice. And then every time he flipped over the card, he would tap it once or twice. So they got a secret language super fast under the
Ah.
table.
That is awesome.
I mean, how beautiful is that?
Exactly. And that's it. That's exactly it. It's just, he could have dismissed it. He could have said, oh, sorry, or he could have just avoided the guy altogether. But
Right.
instead, what did he do? He had integrity in that he kept his word, and he figured it out. And look how easy it was to figure it out. That's what we're fighting. I mean, we made a ton of mistakes in 2021. There was no way that we were going to ever get it right out of the gate. No
Right.
way.
Right.
But it was that we tried.
Yep.
That was it. We tried. And we're going to try again, and we're going to try again, and we're going to try again. And it'll never be perfect because there will always be something more we can do. It'll
Yeah.
never be perfect.
And that's what makes it perfect, right?
Yeah.
Perfection is subjective. So if having a problem and overcoming the problem is the necessary step towards making things better, then that in itself is perfect.
Yeah.
If making problems, if problems were completely avoidable, then fine. then there could be some attainable thing that maybe you could have done it perfect the first time. But that's not the way the reality works.
No. No.
Like, turn on a video game, give it to a 6-year-old, expect them to do the world record speed run. Never going to happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So them falling in the little hole and going, bah, that's perfect. It's a
Yep.
perfect path, and I love it. I love what you're
This is.
doing. I'm so excited.
I say everything is perfect, whole, and complete for exactly what it is and exactly what it is not.
Yeah, Taoism 101. I
Yep.
remember you mentioned that last time. It's so true. Yes, so I've decided that I'm going to go film a TikTok, and I'm going to talk about this episode on the TikTok. So if you are listening to this and you made it all the way through and you heard about this on TikTok, why don't you leave a comment, youtube.com/send it rising, to know that that you're one of the folks on TikTok, and you're hardcore because you're into minute 35. So good job. You made it. You made it the whole
Congratulations,
way.
everyone.
Congratulations. We love you. You did it, listener. Very, very proud of you. And if you have any questions for Shawn, Shawn, do you want to let the fine folks know where they can reach you? Where
Yeah,
they should go?
absolutely. Our website is easyshinemusic.rocks. Which is fun that's a new thing now. That's not just .com. So shinemusic.rocks. All the information right now on there is kind of a recap of our 2021 event, and we will be announcing our 2022 event shortly. We are finalizing the contracts, and we'll get that out. And Kellen, I'll be sure to notify you right out of the gate, and I will ping you. I'll tag you in our TikTok challenge. So maybe you can get that guitar off your wall and start thinking about a Shine Music song and submit your Shine Music song to be considered.
Ooh, well, I am a songwriter, so you've got me interested.
I would love to hear it. I'm so excited to just see the response, right? And I know that there's a huge algorithm that I've got to beat to get, people to see it. But I so far everything else has worked, so I'm just going to put faith in how everything else has worked. And yeah, if anybody is listening and has any ideas, wants to give their input, I would love to hear from someone who is an avid music goer who has a disability. I would love to hear about the struggles, or about what worked, what didn't work, what their best, experiences were, what their worst experiences were. Reach out. You can, info@shinemusicfestival.com, or reach out via our website, and we'd love to hear from them.
Incredible. Yeah, it's so much fun. I absolutely love it. So many amazing things can come from putting people together like this. Major advancements emotionally, spiritually, technologically, etc. You know that, I know that, everyone knows that. You're going to be a wild success. You already are. Ladies and gentlemen, Shawn Satterfield on Satterfield?
Satterfield, yep.
I'm going to make sure I got that right. Shawn Satterfield, Satterfield, for those that are listening on the podcast. Listeners, you know that I love you, that I'm proud of you. You're heading in the right direction. Keep it up. YouTube.com/Send It Rising. If you're listening after the fact, like most folks do, iTunes and Spotify, why don't you swing by youtube.com/Send It Rising. Thumbs up, subscribe, like button, help with the algorithm. That would be greatly appreciated. Our guest today, Shawn, is on the forefront of accessibility. And if you didn't know about Shine Music Festival, now you know. Bye,
Thanks
everybody.
so much for having me, Kellen.
Yes, ma'am. Bye, guys.